I mean, what's the worst that could happen?
Exactly. Embarrassment.
That's a fantastic first words for the live.
Well, we often start. We normally start because we normally go live. So this is a pre-recorded episode, obviously, and we normally go live, and we've normally I literally hit the live at sort of 9:30 p.m. on a Sunday, and we're often partway through a conversation, and some of the starts have been kind of quite hilarious, really.
Oh,
but it's part of our style. We don't kind of do this. And welcome to. I don't know how to do that.
I suppose I think if you did do the whole kind of hello, welcome back episode X of this, we're talking about, it'd be much less, I suppose, of an organic conversation, and it would feel not staged. Stage isn't the right word, but it would feel inauthentic. It might take away from the kind of friends going out for coffee feel.
Absolutely, and that's something we found that, like, specifically with bumping into friends, you typically end up kind of joining a conversation partway through anyway if you're out and about. You don't kind of turn up at the table and everyone sort of welcomes you. You sit down and then you pick a topic of conversation. You kind of bumble into it all mid-sentence as a couple of other people mid-chatting. I think we all experienced that at like Maker Central at the show, and then at the the hotel bars afterwards of kind of, I recognise you. What are you in the middle of talking about?
Exactly.
Well, people won't recognise us.
No, but we normally don't tell anybody who we are anyway. At least not until like an hour in, right? This is Andy.
Yeah.
Well, that is our normal approach. Yeah, I mean, I think our record for an introduction is about 3 hours and 20, something like that. I think.
Before we let them say who they were.
Yeah. I mean, normally the names on the episode when people join, so they kind of know who they're going to be talking to. So it's like redundancy to introduce them again, particularly if they're a well-known figure.
Yeah.
But I guess you, without kind of putting down, you guys work in the background of the maker community, and you're perhaps not so well known. So it probably is a good idea for us to maybe introduce you a little.
I mean, for those watching the video, Dan's kind of giving the game away slightly.
He's not going to do the entire episode like this, yeah.
Definitely pointed in Mark there, but there you go. Yeah, Triton. I'm head of power tools for Triton, so I'm responsible for the tech side of things. I'm responsible for the product lineup, and for the continuous improvement of our products. So we kind of have two groups of people that we work with really in the community. The people that I work with, which are normally a bit more in the background, people who sign NDAs, test out things, just put hours on new tools just to make sure, they are up to spec. People, I always tell people, I want you to try and break it, and if it's broken, I want it back, please.
And to know exactly what kind of people.
And then there's the people that Mark works with, which are our brand ambassadors, the people that we want the tools to, put on social media and tell the world what's great about things that I develop, basically. Right. And
I'm Triton's global brand manager. So anything with an orange tea, once it's been developed by Dan and brought through the system, and Dan and I work very, very closely together on a daily basis. But I will kind of see and plan and oversee, primarily from a marketing perspective, kind of Triton's global offering, and largely Triton's voice and Triton's vision, I suppose, for what it is and what it wants to be and how it's perceived, and anything from landscaping and product development, working with Dan, through to campaign planning, launches of the brand in new regions, and launches of new products in multiple regions across the globe. It's a job that's different every single day. You get to talk to lots of very friendly, like-minded people, and get hours, going through phones, showing each other your projects that you're making, and you get to hang out in your workshop most of the day, which unfortunately I'm not there today. But it's a job that's good fun.
No, it is definitely.
You definitely both got big smiles on your faces, which is a good thing to see.
Yeah, we both very much enjoy what we do, right, Mark? So probably like you said earlier, we are makers, in the flesh. Originally I come from Germany. I studied engineering in Germany. So I'm not only an engineer who works with metal, I've certified welder as well, but I'm also passionate about woodworking, obviously, because wood as a material is very easy to get by in which country you are, and very, very versatile as well, what you can do with it.
Yeah.
So I think that's quite one aspect that makes Triton a bit unique. If you look into other power tool brands that we know, people are probably with an engineering background because they need to build power tools, but they're not really users as well. They go home 5:30 and then they're not picking up a tool until the next morning, if at all. Whereas we just keep going, right? And we are friends with the people that we sponsor. We are part of the community, really.
Yeah, so Dan's in his workshop, for example, now. Dan will have been working in his workshop since probably 8 a.m. this morning, and when the clock, when he's off the clock, he won't leave. He'll be there tinkering away or making or doing whatever. And I'm often the same. We're currently doing only a couple of days a week in the office, and I will typically work from where my workshop is, and I'll be doing the same, because my lunch break will be slowly going through the mountain of projects that friends and family and everyone wants me to build, which we'll all be very familiar with. No, exactly, and it's 18 months long, and everything jumps the queue and trumps everything else, and it's I'm very much, I'm one of those people. So my background, I'm a brand builder, I suppose. I love to work with passionate communities and be passionate about products, and making is something that has just always fascinated me. I was the person who was taking things apart as a kid to find out how they worked, and much to Mum's annoyance, not necessarily putting them back together.
Yep.
I relate to
or
that
putting
so
them back
much.
together and finding several bolts that I'm going to say
you don't need. There's always bolts
exactly.
you don't need.
Exactly, we're finding efficiencies.
Efficient reassemblies, yeah.
or speedy reassemblies before parents get home. But so I specifically with woodworking, it's something that I really have only been. It's funny because you talk to people and some people say, yeah, I've been building my whole life, but it's never too late to start, and it's never too late to learn. I mean, I personally have only really actually been working with wood for the last, let's call it, 5 years, and since then it's a shame that I'm in this room, because of all the rooms of my house, this is the one that probably has the fewest pieces of furniture in it that I've built. But the desk that this computer is on and the shelves above me, I built. My double wide computer desk downstairs, I built. Our bedside tables, shelves, speaker stands, like, it's just, yeah, we build for fun, and one of the wonderful things about doing that is that you're not alone in it. There are so many resources out there, and we get to work with so many cool people. In particular, on the YouTube side, I mean, Triton, for those who aren't aware, Triton runs a what we call our brand ambassador program. We don't advertise necessarily in kind of a quite traditional direct way. We don't go, here's the product, here's everything you need to know about it, you should buy it because it's excellent for these reasons. That happens, but from kind of an outward perspective, it's more indirect than that. We find people like Matt Cremona, like April Wilkerson, like Brothers Make, and more recently Frank Kruger in Germany, Fabian Pohl in France, and Crimson Guitars. People who have a shared passion for creating and a need to share the entire journey, start to finish, share the highs and the lows of making, and want to teach and want to jargon bust, because that's what we're about. And I hope that comes across, because that's, if it's not, then I'm not doing my job very well.
Yeah, I mean, Triton as an entity in the maker community seems to just like appear it's like you said, it's not that kind of brash in your face, product pushing at every corner or anything like that. You in the background in people's workshops, or that thing that that people are using, but it's not like sponsored by Triton. It's just you're just there being functional and useful and helpful. That's my experiences of Triton back to 2016ish, I think, at the Woodworking Power Tool Show. That was like early days of when you guys started working with April. That was exactly the feeling I got of going and speaking to you guys at the time. It was just a case of like, oh yeah, we've got this thing that does that. It's really cool. Do you want to have a go? It wasn't that kind of pushy. Oh, you must have our tool. It's absolutely amazing. It's Triton C. It's if it fits your purpose, then it fits your purpose.
Exactly.
It wasn't a big sales push. It was really laid back and hey guys, we do this thing.
Yeah, and it's kind of what I do. Develop new products. I can spend all the money, come up with a really expensive product that does it all, right? But what does the maker actually need for the jobs and for the projects that are on, right?
Yeah.
I focus on the accessories. You can buy a Ryobi or somebody else in the lower price range. Open the box. You got everything. You got everything in the box, But from these accessories, 90% you will never use, right? Yeah. And they all cost money. So I try to speak to the community and ask them, what do you guys want? What do you guys need? And ask Mark, ask the ambassadors, ask friends, to see the essential job that they want that tool to do. And then, we decide accordingly.
I think it's a really good approach. If I sing our own praises for a moment, I think it's a really, really good approach that we surround ourselves in our company with like-minded people who actively use this stuff, because the reason that Dan develops the tools in the direction that he does, and the reason that we market them the way we do, is because we, as Dan described, we go and find actually how people are using them. Dan and I will actively be building things, and I'll send Dan a quick message and say, could it be better if it's doing this? Or I have this in the box and I've never actually attached it because there's a different way to So it's and our brand ambassadors are a real good focal point of that, because they showcase, I think we reach nearly if you put together follower counts, they reach nearly 4 million woodworkers and makers every single day, just by almost coolness by association, just by using the products. And again, not shouting about it, just I suppose the approach is these people really know what they're doing. They put out videos for entertainment, to teach, yes, and they could be using anything, but they don't. They're using Triton because the Triton stuff is made and designed in a way that what you need is there, and what you don't need, you don't pay for.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah. What I think I liked a few years ago, quite a few years ago now, went to a local tool show in Kent. I think it was FFX. We're running it at the Datling Showground. And there were a number of, obviously there were masses of tool manufacturers there. And I won't mention some of the other names, but some of them, very much geared towards perhaps people working in the trades. The particular kind of brands. They kind of market themselves as trade brands rather than kind of what I would say maker brands. Obviously, people in the trades are makers, but they perhaps have a different way of working with their tools. They often work their tools hard, and they're often very particular about the brands they want to work with. And often it's I'm this color. But you kind of going around the stands, and talking to some of the kind of the reps on some of the stands. There are quite a few of the stands. I won't sort of drop any sort of name sheet, but they were very kind of forceful about kind of sort of sales. They were very much kind of like, we're the best brand for this, and we have the widest range of this, or we have this, or we have that. And it was very kind of forceful sales. There were a couple of stands I went to, and I kind of asked questions for it. It was like, it was almost like you actually really want to sell me this. You don't seem kind of too bothered. Is it because I'm clearly an older guy with a beard? I'm probably not in the trade, therefore you're probably not that interested.
Yeah.
But I was at the Triton stand, and there was a little bit of a demonstration happening, and I was sort of looking at just the tools, and one of your guys was there, and it was probably similar age to me, to be honest, possibly even a couple of years older, and we just got chatting. And it was clear that he was somebody who made stuff. It was so clear that he was kind of interested in kind of what I like to make. And I think that was kind of a stand. And I've seen the same when I've been to Triton stand at Maker Central the 2 times I've been there. When I've been to other tool shops, I've been to the Triton stand with different people. You still get that kind of sort of same kind of approach, or I have found, but you get that same sort of approach of, okay, yeah. What do you want to make? What do you make? What do you want to do? Yeah, what are you interested in? What do you want to sort of try out? I mean, the D&M show in 2019. I was actually looking at possibly getting a bobbin sander. At the end, I didn't, because I just really couldn't decide whether to get the portable one, which I know I can fit into my tiny little workshop, or whether to go for the kind of the bobbin and bolt sander, because I knew that would be more useful to me. And it's just like, well, but we're kind of have a go. Look, here's a piece of wood. We've got it powered up. We've got extraction on. Have a go. Have a play. See what works for you. And in the end, because I couldn't make my mind up, it's just like, thank you for that. It's fine. Yeah, you've got to pick what's right for you. And
it's something specifically that we do product training when prior to attending shows, and largely the product training is not necessarily sales focused. It's familiarity focused, and that's very easy where you've got members of the team like Dan and myself who actively practice and use the pieces every single day. But it's similar to the conversation that you and I had briefly at Makers, Jamie, where you need to kind of instill confidence in the person that you're talking to, that you and we, in this sense, Triton, know what we're talking about. Because let's be honest, Triton's not my first power tool. You would expect to try. Our audience is one that typically has done their research before they go and buy the tool. They know what they're looking for. They're buying a tool for specific features. They don't walk in because they need one, pick up the orange one because they need one, and walk out with that. They're buying it for specific reasons. But when we're doing our training, we specifically, it always comes back to, what do you make with it? How does it fit your purpose? Because if you don't know what you're talking about, and if a sales rep doesn't know what they're talking about, and I have had a similar experience with different reps, Andy, you can smell it a mile away if somebody doesn't like it. And it's not. I don't want to say like it's a hive mind, because it makes the makers community, it has negative connotations, but you can tell if somebody doesn't make.
Yes. Very much so.
And so we, as a brand, we don't try and bullshit you, because we can't. Because it's not valuable to. It is not the most efficient approach. I'll give it that. If we were training people specifically and saying these are the sales techniques you need to hit these, and you'll sell more that way, then yes, perhaps we'd sell more. But then the user experience is lesser. The approach we take is such that I like to think that everyone that comes to interact with us leaves something closer to a kind of a personal ambassador of the brand than they were before they came and spoke to us, because we take the approach we do. It comes back to what's your use of it. Does it fit your purpose?
I mean, that's obviously similar to the conversation we had at Makers anyway. Of that, you're building a relationship with the human being behind it, rather than trying to just sell a product. You know, the fact that kind of your approach to it is to learn about the person and what they're making, and if the tool isn't right for it, you're not going to recommend it. You know, it would be very easy to get sales on that big, absolutely monstrous plane that you guys have, because everyone who looks at it goes, "Oh my god, that's amazing!" So it'd be very easy to push sales for it. But there's only going to be like 3 people in the world who actually need that thing, because it's.
But then this is a good example. Those 3 people, they're probably building a barn or building a carport or something.
Exactly, yeah.
And it would take them 10 times longer without it.
If they went for the major brand, they would spend 3 times the amount of money, right? So true that
Exactly,
I don't need every day. Why would I spend the big money? And the Triton will last them a lifetime anyway. So
yeah, have you guys ever seen that thing in use?
No.
Only on video.
It's phenomenal. Honestly, it sounds like an air raid siren. It's our MD likes to say you can write a work on it because it's efficient at what it does.
Oh my god!
I thoroughly
the
recommend
power tool races that they do in the States.
Yeah.
The belt sanders.
I would. Yeah. It's got our patented triple blade drum in it. So if we're doing a power tool race, I think I'd be behind a bulletproof glass or something if we're turning that on, because it's very, very good at removing a lot of material very quickly. But we do.
For Robot Wars next year.
Exactly. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if somebody took zip ties and just mounted that sideways on a little remote control car. They probably do pretty well.
One on the back to balance out. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. But we get sent all sorts of, and it's one of the most fun things about what we do and the way we operate is that everybody that uses the tools, we find that people they either have heard of us and love it, or they haven't heard of us, and then they get to go through the joy of learning about it. But we get so much inbound marketing. We get so many people sending us clips of their tools and use and stuff that they've made and the way they've integrated it into their workbenches. And you mentioned the portable spindle sander. We get probably one every week of somebody who's come up with some new way to integrate it into some sort of flip down table or specifically mounted in their workbench or the rest of it.
You can't always show that because obviously we have a bit of a duty of care. Not everything is 100% safe that people do with the tools, but what we can show, we do show.
Oh my goodness! Yeah,
I can imagine. Yeah.
Yeah, there are a number of clips we've been sent that have been kind of saved in the vault for internal viewing as to what users are doing with it, but definitely shouldn't be
future training only.
Yeah. But no. So the TPL 180 is the name of the big 7-inch planer. You're right. It has one very obvious specific use, which is flattening usually huge oak beams, and we've got some fantastic clips of users doing that. If people have a look at our Instagram and our tags part specifically, they'll be able to see us posting and reposting things that we're sent like that. And I think people interact with us because we respond because we're genuinely interested in what you're doing. And that product actually, the TPL 180B, that has a new version coming out very soon, doesn't it, Dan?
Yep. Because we took the feedback, there was one kind of niggle with it. The dust extraction port wasn't large enough because the wettish green wood, green oak chips are really sticky. So we made it bigger. We made it bigger, but at the same time we improved the motor power a little bit, and now it's even more of a beast. So. Continuous improvement, really. But people told us about that. They said we absolutely love it, but it clogs up. So
I suppose it's one of the benefits of being close to the community and using the tool ourselves is that for a lot of the work that Dan does, he's got a lot of material specifically from the community as to what people want to see. We have the benefit of a lot of people writing to us, and everyone's an expert, so everyone tells us how we should do it, and some things get changed for regulation purposes, and we get asked, I'd say 4 or 5 times a show, why we've changed the super jaws or why we've changed the work center, and people are fans for a long time as well. We get people who turn up. Oh yeah, absolutely.
1976, that's when Triton started.
No, exactly. So Triton's
Work
coming up
Center is
on.
now in its iteration number 7, right? And I had well, at least 4 people. 2 of them were actually real Australians at Maker Central that were asking questions about the 20-year-old model. And I mean, funny enough, we still have some spare parts for that as well. Not everything anymore, but we do still support it. But yeah, there's a huge fan community in Australia. But they say they even isn't the original Superjaws in a museum somewhere in Sydney?
It is. So
Because
George
a part of heritage of like
Australian
home-built-
heritage. Exactly that. There is an Australian museum to do with Australian heritage, and the Triton brand and Triton Superjaws features as an exhibit in there, and it's I don't know whether it's kind of the goggles of age, but that thing, a fantastic product. The first, honestly, it was the original first foot operated portable clamp was the Superjaws, released in '91 by Triton. It would kick you in the shin as soon as you released it. There was a spring that shoots the foot pedal forward, and we get people coming up at shows and saying, "Oh, that's awesome!" But yeah, so what iteration of the Superjaws is this? Oh, I've got one of the original ones. Oh yeah, okay, it's from 1992. And then they'll roll up their shin and they'll have a fresh bruise, and they'll say, "Oh, so sorry about that. Do you want a new one?" And they go, "Oh no, I love the thing. Like I wouldn't."
I suppose because Triton's originally an Australian company, isn't it? It's kind of migrated back these ways.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, about 16 years ago. Yep.
Yeah, so we Triton's born in '76 in Australia, inside of Melbourne. The original inventor, George Lewin, wanted to do something that he wasn't able to do effectively. I think the original work said, I think he was building, the story is he was building a coffee table, and he needed to mount his circular saw to his table so that he could make cuts that he wasn't able to do otherwise. His invention, the work center, got featured on an Australian kind of inventors program or like daytime TV thing, and overnight he got 1,500 sales of this thing, and the company barely existed yet. Like the guy didn't have the setup to fulfill the orders immediately, but the demand was there, and so Triton was born out of that. And that kind of, I suppose, that heritage and that legacy of trying to provide a service through products that other people don't is something that we've kind of carried on as to the best of our ability throughout Triton's history. But Triton came to the UK in, was it 2006, I believe, Dan?
Yep.
And was sort of not reborn, but has certainly taken on new life since headquartering out in the southwest of England in Yeovil.
It did breach out a little bit before we got hold of it. So the range was getting too big. It was just a jack of all trades, metalworking, woodworking, everything together. And since we got it, it got refocused to be woodworking only, to be specific for a purpose. And I think it was the best thing ever.
I think so. I think the refocusing of it did it a lot of good, because it one of the benefits that we have is that our products are at a price point that gives you exceptional products without the customer paying for the overheads of development for things that cut tiles or are built specifically to cut metal or break through brickwork, and you don't have the marketing, the logistics, the supply chain, everything, the tooling, everything to do with doing any of that. We are it's not, woodworking is not a niche per se, because it's universal. Our customers are they're joiners, they're carpenters, they're cabinet makers, they're in commercial workshops, they're kitchen fitters. They are your everyday woodworker, your fair weather woodworker. They're your person that goes into the workshop at 8 a.m. like myself and Dan, and leaves at 9 o'clock at night, and we get an angry call from the wife asking us where we are. But hey, I built you a banana stand. She's still, that's a bad example, she's still waiting on her banana stand.
It's on the list. She doesn't need to remind you every 6 months.
It is, and it's on the list. Yeah. As long as I know it's on the list, as far as I'm concerned, it's done.
Yeah, the list. Yeah, we've all got one.
How do you guys choose your projects? Because we've talked about having a list, and this would be something that people listening can empathise with. Everyone's got a list of what to build. In terms of how you prioritise what you're building, is it whichever one you're asked for most, or is I don't know. I don't really know what I'm asking, because when I think
I know what you're asking. You kind of
This is maybe a thinly veiled self-help question. I've got too many projects to do, and I don't know where to start. How do you guys start?
First, wife and kids. Make them happy.
Yeah.
Then what do you need in the house and around?
What would make your life easier?
Exactly. And lastly, what do you want? Well, what I often find is I go to local sawmills, places like Yanders and others are available, and I find a spectacular piece of timber. It's all unique pieces. There won't be a second one in the world like it, and then it all flows, and they know exactly what they want to do with it. So
that was going to say it's whether or not you're fitting the materials to the project that you need to do, or creating the project around the really nice bit of material that you've just found.
Exactly.
Sometimes it's a fine balance to choose between those two.
Yeah, this doesn't really help me, because I'm in the camp, the same camp that you guys are, where I see a nice bit of wood and I have to have it because it's the only one in the world, and then I'm afraid to use it because I don't want to.
It's too special. Yeah.
I want to do it justice. It's not too special. It's that the project might not be right for it. Maybe if I cut it this way, you won't see the most. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I've got a few pieces of wood like that. Yeah. I think for me, a clue to what jobs become priority is when my wife says, "I'm just going to make this thing," me knowing full well that she doesn't have the skills to perhaps make the thing that she wants to make, and that's normally a kind of an incentive to kind of okay, yeah, I'll bring that to the top of the list, and that'll happen now.
See, I sort of took the different approach with that, Andy, because I just taught my wife how to use all the tools. So she uses my tools probably more than I do. So quite often when I was back working in the office and things, it would be, I'd get a text message going, I need to cut this bit of wood. What's the best saw to use? Or I'm just about to do this. Is there a better way? Wait till I get home and I can at least hold the other end before you try and cut through this.
See, I've tried. I've tried woodworking, and my wife, she loves doing it, but there are other things that she likes doing more. So and she's only interested with building something that is relevant to her or the house. So bath caddy, she's in the workshop with me. If I'm building a coffee table to house my father-in-law's Lego Millennium Falcon, which I am at the moment, she's not interested.
I think I learned where my wife was with kind of sort of making fairly quickly, and she's fantastic with sort of what might be called arts and crafts. She's very able with textiles and things like that. But not soon after we sort of first met, and she needed some. I think she needed a replacement tire on her bike. I said, well, have you got some tools? Because I'd gone round to her place and I didn't have any tools for me. So she handed me this shoebox with her tool set in it, and I kind of opened it up, and it was like, there was a kitchen, not a kitchen. Yeah, there was a kitchen knife. There was a small sort of kitchen knife, and there was a dining knife. It was like a butter knife. I said, why is there a kind of a knife fork set in?
Andy,
it's a really useful tool.
Yeah, you can't be without the beaten up butter knife. Everyone's got.
Yeah,
I've got at least two in
Well, I have a bunch as well, but it was when I kind of sort of asked her about it, and the explanation that I got, it was like, oh, okay.
And surely the beaten up butter knife is going to be a perfect substitute for when that new chisel isn't going to cut it for opening the tin of paint.
Yep.
Definitely.
Yeah, that's
really
kind
annoyed
of
with the woodworkers.
things like that have happened. Yes.
Do we need the Triton butter knife? Or something?
yes, we do.
Maybe we need a limited edition, Mark. What do you think?
just round the end over.
Hey,
I
our
tell you
50th.
what. There's this German DIY store chain, and what they have done for one of their anniversaries, they actually went and bought a surplus tank, and they used the steel of the gun. They cut it up and they forged hammers out of it.
Oh,
And
fantastic.
yep, they're all limited edition, numbered, and they go. I mean, they were like 60 quid when they were in the store, very limited, and they go to on eBay. They can buy them for 400-500 quid now. Maybe we need a Triton butter knife made of some special steel. What do you think?
Hey, our 50th anniversary is coming up in 3 or 4 years. I think we've got time to work it out.
Product development. You heard it here first, folks.
I let you to pitch that to the CEO, right?
Yeah, I'll do it. I'll do the song and dance. That's fine. That's my. Yeah.
Sounds like a great
Starts
plan
off
to
with
me. Yeah.
Dan says.
Dan had this great idea.
Well, I'm presuming they'll be listening to the podcast anyway. So yeah, they'll get it there. Yeah. Oh, we think it's a brilliant idea. So the community is behind it.
Exactly.
How? What about you guys with the multitude of people that you get to talk to generally and through this show? What perhaps has surprised you the most? Is there like a common theme that comes up, or?
I think one thing that is common is we were saying earlier about when you sort of started into kind of making by taking things apart and then sometimes getting them back together properly and sometimes not. And I think that is really, really quite common. I think that's
I think curiosity is ubiquitous among the makers, and an overabundance of unfinished projects. That seems to be the commonalities with almost all makers we've spoken with.
I think
and the hunt for the new toy, I think.
Since COVID, the trend is a little bit, how can I turn the thing that they love into a small or medium-sized business then? That seems to be...
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people we talk to are in that kind of position, whether it's from the point of view of actually looking to give up the day job.
Exactly.
Eventually. Or whether it's just enough to supplement income to go with the day job so that they can, with rising prices to actually kind of be able to afford to put fuel in the car or to buy electricity. But for a lot of people, I think they like to sort of sell their things in order to maintain the process, to keep going. Which I think for some people there is that kind of eye on, I'm going to do it as a business. I was having a conversation with someone earlier today about how they'd been at a craft fair and there was somebody who was selling wooden turned items that were being sold almost for less than you could buy the blanks for. And as somebody who made the same sort of things, it's like, I can't compete with that on a business point of view.
Exactly.
But for some people,
that's like a struggle for you guys as tool manufacturers as well, that trying to get that kind of that competitive edge between a larger manufacturer who can churn out lots and lots and lots and reduce the cost versus yourselves who are trying to get the right tool in the right hands kind of thing. I'd imagine that's a bit of a similar kind of struggle of how you can shuffle that kind of that balance between those two kind of extremes there.
We are very lucky. We've got a very loyal supplier base. I mean, over the last since 1976, really. But no, we have a very stable supplier base. They're hugely in support of what we do, and big brands have different expectations sometimes in terms of margins, etc. as well. So we are. I mean, it doesn't mean we don't like making money. We're still a commercial entity, and we are highly profitable as well. But I think expectation level is different. If you're the yellow brand or the green brand.
ultimately, I consider them on my first day of sort of paid work, and having a tour of I was in sort of quality control and research, and you should get a tour of the facility, get a tour of the labs where I was going to be working, and a tour of the sort of manufacturing floor. And the most important thing I ever learned in business came that day. We have to make money. If we don't make money, we are no longer a business.
Exactly.
And that is an essential tenet of any business. If you're not producing enough money from whatever your product or service is, then you will no longer be a business.
Exactly.
And it doesn't get any simpler than that.
Yeah. We are also part of a bigger company, a bigger group of companies that doesn't only own the Triton brand. So we are still a very, very important part of that business. But the focus is not only on us making all the money, which is again, it helps.
Yeah, so that takes the pressure off.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be interested to know how that works in terms of does that give you? I mean, obviously, it's a very common thing to have kind of bigger companies with a number of companies underneath them. I think the majority of the tool manufacturers are part of some sort of chain.
I think there's only one I can think of that isn't, as in terms of major names.
There isn't many. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, does that give? Apart from obviously, there's a business comfort there by having that, because when just seasonally one company might not be doing quite so well, another company may be bouncing. So overall, everything's hunky dory for the larger business. But ignoring kind of that side of things, from a maybe more technical side of things, are there kind of sort of benefits? Do you get to work with your sort of your counterparts in the other companies that kind of go, oh, we found there's this new bit of tech that's really good. You might want to think about see if you can incorporate that into your product.
That happens, for example. But then also when you consider the experience that different people in different positions bring to the business, right? We have people in the business that were very high level people at the Ward, or certainly Black & Decker. We have the luxury. I've got my own team Far East, and my key people there were all making power tools for the odd other big brand. So that combination of skill and experience really is helping you out a lot. Plus the network that comes with that, right? The network, as in which manufacturer people know from the former life or whatever. It's all comes together.
I think the network is a big part of it, because I suppose what we were talking about with a business has to earn enough to exist and continue existing and continue to evolve is set directly against whatever your overheads are. And we have the benefit as part of a larger group that we have a supply chain and logistics setup and knowledge of manufacturers, tools and tech and pieces far greater than we would if Triton was just solely Triton. So our cost is shared in that regard, but Triton does as one of the, we call them, I think, power brands internally. Triton pulls a big part of that weight in within the company. Bringing it back to the conversation about makers wanting to do it as a business and earning enough to exist, I suppose if people are starting, a lot of people did, as you mentioned during lockdown, Dan, if people are starting making with the intention of selling and it being their full-time thing, in my head, that's not to say it doesn't work sometimes, but in my head that kind of takes away from the love of it, because it's a direct conflict with doing it because you love doing it. You've always got the background of
I think how many of us job, doesn't it?
Yeah. But I think it's really rare that people aren't into making it some form or other already, that they decide, I want to pick up making, I want to develop in order to sell and make money. I don't think that happens at all, actually. You have to have
I think it's
the skill already, and just try
people
to
who've already been making, they already have a background in it. It's that can I turn the thing? It's that kind of it's that adage, isn't it? Of if you do the thing you love, you never have to work a day in your life. Do a day of work, and I, it's not really true, because you'll always be working. If you're doing the thing you love, you still got to work at it, and if you turn it into your income, you probably have to work harder, and then you lose the benefits perhaps of having it as your hobby.
I know a number of people
that are really successful doing it. They then at one point quite soon start employing people just for the purpose of retaining the fun themselves, and the routine work goes to somebody, so to a team of people, to get production done, to get the products done that pay the bread and butter.
Yeah. So we kind of get the behind the scenes of that as well, because we've grown significantly in the last X number of years. I've been with Triton 4 yees, and in that time, our growth has been doubled in size. Our growth has been. That sounds like I'm taking credit. I'm not. There's an awesome team and awesome products behind it. I can say it on record. It's me. It's all me. We can cut that. Don't cut that. Where was I going with this? Yes, makers. In particular, Dan mentioned they employ people. We know teams that have gone from 2 people in the last 4 years to roughly 15. I have had the personal benefit of 2 of the 3, actually, of the ambassadors that I prospected and brought on to be under the Triton Ambassador program are actively leaving their normal full-time employment to content create full-time as a result of Triton enabling them, and being that kind of that stepping stone, arguably a safety net in a sense, because they don't have to sell specifically directly, because there's money that changes hands with sponsorship, but they're going from what they do to fund their hobby of making to making full time. And
I think probably a good example of that is our mutual friends Johnny and Matt from Brothers Make, who
good friends,
who've been able to kind of, particularly kind of Matt, who's been able to kind of go, I'm not going to be a teacher full time anymore. And as an ex-teacher myself, kind of seeing that happen with people, because I know the kind of the stresses and strains of teaching and how it actually can kind of eat into you. And in some way, if you're teaching full time, often you don't get necessarily the time to make. You don't get the time, even because you after school. And I think with Matt being a technology teacher, obviously he gets an element of being able to sort of make and some enjoyment. And I've done a little bit of that myself in school, where you're in a workshop and you're helping a student make something and produce something or solve a problem. And there's still that element there of making, but being able to actually kind of say, right, Mondays, I'm not going to be in school. I am going to be in the workshop, and I'm going to be able to work on producing content, work on developing, with my Brothers Make, obviously their plastic reprocessing and recycling is just phenomenal, and probably amongst the best in the UK in terms of kind of the public seeing side of things.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I think, they've been a part of for Triton for many years now, and I think it was definitely that kind of involvement with you that allowed that to happen.
It was, yeah. Brothers Make have done exceptionally well. I think at last count, maybe yesterday, 189,000 on YouTube. When I first started talking to them, I think it was late 18, and they were at 5,500, and we signed them at 6,000, because, as we discussed earlier, they produced content that aligned with our core passion for needing to teach and needing to show, needing to enable, and they were fun. They produced videos that you would expect to have far more views, and now do get the views you would expect. On a channel that if you scroll down a little bit 3 years ago, there'd be between kind of 1 and 10,000 views. So yeah, Brothers Make is a prime example of that. Hi Johnny, I know you're listening.
Yeah, we'll be having them on soon, hopefully.
Yeah, that'd be terrific. They're a laugh. They really are a lot of fun.
I first met them at the first Maker Central, and they had just posted their first video. It's sort of like at that week before, I think it was. and we were both. They and I were. Our Instagram accounts were below 100 followers, and it was completely, fresh into it all. We were as green as each other, and then now we wind them up all the time for that kind of skyrocket to infamy, I suppose, is it's better than fame there, but. It helps that such lovely people as well. I think they're so caring and approachable and want to offload as much of their knowledge as they can into me.
Yeah, we pay them in sandwiches. That's. I'm only partially kidding. Like, honestly, I am. There's near us. There is a sandwich place that we introduced them to, and Johnny in particular. My goodness, we are not allowed in unless we come bearing sandwiches. If you ask him honestly, ask him about when you get them on, ask him about the Triton sandwich, or just say the word Chapman's, and his ears will prick up and his eyes will light up. Man loves a sandwich. You'll have 3 hours of content right there if you ask Johnny about a sandwich. A lot of people make as an escape, don't they? And yes. Me, I tend to try and, as much as I can, I tend to separate my work life, where I'm involved in the tools, talking about the tools the whole time, from what I'm actually doing. So I put my headphones in and I'll create for me for 3 or 4 hours straight, because it feels separate to creating for something else. And and coming back to doing stuff as a business, I know a lot of people who are good enough that they could do. They could turn what they do into a business, but I know an equal amount of people who don't want to, because they don't want to lose that. They don't want to step into that world and that become more of their identity than it is already. Along the same vein, there are people who I won't name, but if they're listening, they know who they are, who are serial business starters who start multiple businesses to fund their hobbies, which spawn more businesses, which need more hobbies to fund the business. It's a vicious cycle of and it's fantastic, and it's quite funny and fun to watch. But it's I personally I'll stick with the one job.
Well, it's to sort of look back to what Andy was saying earlier about the. You get some of the folks who will make for fun, and then they suddenly realize they've surrounded themselves with all of these things that people want, and they've made, and they don't have a use for. They just made them because they wanted to make them, and then they'll sell them at cost or at whatever they can be bothered with.
I think. Sorry, Jamie, go ahead. I was just going to say, I think it's interesting how much people sometimes have a mental block where they believe that it's too late, or that it's not good enough, or they don't have the skills to do. But every one of our brand ambassadors typically, and anybody who they might look up to or watch on a regular basis, has a very similar story. Matt Ramona, for example, he was working in IT. He was made redundant. Him and Lindsay, who is absolute superwoman. Lindsay is amazing. They went to IKEA and wanted to buy a bedside table, and Matt went, "What? I can make that." Like, so he did, and he wasn't particularly pleased with it, so he taught himself to do it better, and now he's building Queen Anne highboys, and he sells workbench kits and chair kits worldwide for a living. Like, everybody has a first project and a humble beginning, and people need to, I think, generally be less afraid of failure and less afraid of learning, because that's largely a part of the reason we consume the content that we all do, is because we see the highs and the lows. You see what's best practice and the funny parts, which is what's not best practice.
There's quite a number of people as well that don't want to concern themselves with the ins and outs of running the business, right? With the commercial side of it, with the taxes, with all the bookkeeping. You just want to make and have fun at that, but don't want to sell really. But,
and that's perfectly okay. And I think it's. I sometimes fear. Sometimes we see things on kind of, particularly if you're a YouTuber or you're into YouTube a lot. You see a lot of kind of like how to turn your YouTube into a business, and not just kind of get plenty of views and get the AdSense running in and get sponsorships, but actually kind of become a business. There are podcasts about it. There are channels dedicated entirely to kind of becoming a business based off YouTube, whether that's using YouTube as the business, or whether it's creating something from wood or metal or whatever, and then going into business. And I think I think it's almost that kind of hustle culture that isn't necessarily useful. I think, if making is something that a lot of people enjoy. I mean, a lot of my making, I've people have heard my story plenty of times. I've in my other occasional podcast, Thoughts from Tin Creature, I've gone into the sort of detail about kind of my history of making, and I've been on a couple of other podcasts, and I started out really young. I can remember making. We came from a making family. We made stuff because we couldn't afford to buy stuff, and we fixed stuff because we couldn't afford to buy new stuff. And that kind of carried on. And as a new house owner, when I got married, it was a case of right. Well, we're paying a mortgage. We've got stuff that we've got to pay somebody else to do because we can't do it. And there's stuff that we will do ourselves because it's. I mean, I live in the southeast. Getting anyone down here, trying to find somebody that can do a job for starters is annoying. If you can find somebody, the amount they actually want to pay or to be paid to do something that now, particularly, I know that I can do or should be able to do, and it's like, you want how much per day?
It's such a dangerous thing to start, isn't it? Like I personally, I stop at wallpapering. I can wallpaper. I hate it.
I hate wallpapering.
Like I hate it. Like it's great. It doesn't take that long, but in my head I built up to be this huge thing, and then I've bought the wrong type of wallpaper paste, and I bought paste the paper, not paste the wall, and there's just so many things that could be simpler. But this isn't the wallpaper podcast. This is the
hey, wallpapering is making. You're making the place better.
It is. I'm not gonna dunk on the wallpaper community here. If that's your thing, then fantastic. I love you for it, but it's not for me. But at the same time, I feel pain paying someone to do something that I know I could do, regardless of how much I won't want to do it, which means the wallpapering won't be done because I could do it, but I'm not going to.
We're looping back around to that again.
No. We had the bathroom done, or we had the tiling done. I did the bathroom, and it wasn't done right. If you didn't feel you paid a lot of money, and you could really have done better yourself, just probably double the amount of time. But it's really disheartening sometimes.
Yeah.
This is the other thing. When you guys might be the same, but when I make something, everyone's their own worst critic. I'll know that I screwed up the mitre on that joint, and there won't be a day that goes by when I show someone that piece of furniture that I won't personally point that out, and they wouldn't know. Nobody would know. I might have hidden it up or filled it in with wood filler or something, but I'll tell them it was wrong.
And it's like when someone comes around to your house, no matter how tidy and clean your house is, you always apologize for the state of it, and it's that kind of inbuilt sort of mentality, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, I made this thing, but just don't look at this bit that I cocked up here. Don't look at this bit behind here. If you open this bit up there, that's slightly wrong. No one's going to do that.
And they're going,
look at it.
You made it?
You made that? Yeah.
Oh, I know. We're all our own worst critics, and a lot of people, and myself included, I suppose, allow that to prevent me from wanting to make more. I sometimes, if I'm halfway through a project and I screw something up, I'll start the next one, and it's the worst thing I could possibly do, because then it becomes this big reminder in the room. Yeah, no,
that's
it
the
is.
other list. Yeah, the unfinished project list.
Yeah, and I'll put it on top of the previous unfinished projects, and it'll just be a living art display as a testament to my failure. Yeah.
Well, hey, the bathroom's functional. Why does it have to be painted? Yeah,
exactly. Doesn't need
Maybe
flooring.
there's a business idea there, Mark. Maybe we can have a website where we just pass the semi-finished project on to somebody else to finish. Or project swap or something like that.
That's not a bad idea.
Project swap's fantastic.
I guess the way if there's a group of you, kind of you descend on, take it in turns to descend on your house for a weekend, and kind of you sort of okay, what needs to be finished? Yes, yeah.
Community
Did you ever do
based would be fantastic.
thing as a kid where, like, you know, if you've got a group of friends and one of you would draw like the head of a person and then you fold it over, and then the next person would draw the neck down, draw the torso.
Well, I'm getting ahead of myself. But this is an idea that we had for, and I've got to give credit to Ben Crow of Crimson Guitars. This is an idea that I think he's had swimming around that we're going to try probably at the next Maker Central, where we'll get Ben to host that effectively, where you're building something, say it's shaping a guitar, and you get access to this part of it, and then the next maker is covered up and you get access to this part of it, and at the end you're going to find out what the thing looks like.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I think with guitars you could really quite do, or certainly sort of neck and body, couldn't you? Because I mean they join at a particular point. You just define the sort of the joint between the neck and the body, and say, look, it's going to be 5 centimeters there, 2 centimeters there. It's got to have 2 holes at 25 millimeters apart. Go.
Yeah. Mark, they had the Maker's Jenga, right? Where people bought the Jenga blocks, and maybe we do the Maker's Guitar that way next time. Everybody brings in a piece of a guitar, and Ben's challenge is to put it together.
He's going to but no, he will. Ben's amazing. Ben will make it work, but I think the words "never again" will leave his mouth shortly after.
Well, hopefully we're going to get him on sometime this year. So we'll talk to him if we can remember. We'll talk to him about it and suggest it.
Oh yeah.
I'm talking about. I was going to say, talking about sort of Ben and people. We've already mentioned that you work with a number of creators, both on sort of this, well, in Europe and in America. I mean, that is obviously, as you've already said, it's an important relationship for you, and I suspect that probably there'll be a lot of people kind of sort of thinking, that's great. How did they get to be? How did they become brand ambassadors? Did they kind of do people approach you? Did you approach them? Are there kind of tricks that people should maybe sort of think about if they want to work with not necessarily yourselves but other companies?
I think it's a mix, isn't it, Mark? I mean, Crimson is local. I mean, Crimson's 15 minutes from where I am, and half an hour from where you are, Mark. That's a huge advantage. Other people we find on the internet, literally, there isn't actually too many emails anymore that we get people asking for sponsorship or to be sponsored, right? It's mainly
you might not.
There was a time when I got
you should look at the Instagram DMs. It's we get maybe 2 a day to direct messages of people saying, I'm thinking of starting up a YouTube. I think this would be beneficial for you, Triton. And good on them, absolutely. But our approach is very much, we need you to love what you're doing, and we will find you that way. I mean, that's the I guess the universal experience of all of the people that we work with specifically. And when I say our brand ambassadors and our influencers, our brand ambassadors are specifically those that are kind of officially brand ambassadors. That's not to say that we won't work with you if you're not part of that program. We regularly send out a lot of tools to people that are just showcasing their love for the brand or their need to create. So regardless of whether we were getting anything back, there's no that in those cases where somebody's made something fantastic, and we send something out, we're not, we say, if you continue tagging us, that's terrific, but it's not there's no exchange taking place. It's a we love what you do, continue doing it. I mean, maybe to hark back slightly to a conversation that we had earlier on clips that we received that are not going to see the light of day for safety purposes. A couple of tools have been sent out as a result. People using bob and sanders upside down as portable sanders.
Okay.
Who didn't seem to know that we made a portable one ourselves. We sent them a portable one because we want them to to be able to, we want them not hurt themselves. and there's a better way to do things.
I think it's worth here. Obviously, you and I had a conversation at Maker Central, Mark, and that was something that's worth probably bringing up to anyone who's listening is the fact that as makers, you guys are actively watching the content that people produce. You're not, like you said before, you're not just sort of sat in an office somewhere finding how to get the biggest number of sales. Because you are actively part of the community, you're seeing these things and making those decisions, like seeing someone doing something unsafe and thinking, oh well, I can use a little bit of my professional leverage here to be able to send someone a tool that might be better in the situation, for your sort of personal well-being almost, isn't it, rather than specifically to try and promote the brand as such. It's
exactly that
you need one of these.
There's a joint need to allow people to create. And I feel very, very privileged to be in the position to enable people and to help people. There's no threshold, let's say, for if you've got more than 10,000 Instagram followers, then we'll might write you a message and see how it goes. It doesn't work like that. It's
personality and personal
more
values,
organic.
isn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's personality, it's personal values. Anybody who's met Brothers Make, for example, knows how much energy they have and how much they want to share what they're doing. And that in particular, kind of with Brothers Makes the example, really resonated with us. And it's very much an organic thing. The other part is, and this is going to sound bizarre perhaps, but people shouldn't be afraid of just writing to ask for things. And that's not, I'm Ginny is our social media manager, and she might be bombarded at the moment as a result of that comment. But what I mean is, if I'm not talking about just Triton in particular, I'm talking about anything and everything company related. Yeah. If you write and ask, what's the worst that can happen? Even if the answer's no, it's going to put you on their radar for later on, and you'd be surprised at how many times the answer is yes.
Yeah, and I mean, from a commercial point of view, it's often beneficial for the company anyway. In terms of you're producing stuff that has a margin on it. So, if something retails for £200, it's not costing you as a company £200 to send that out to that content creator, but that might be more beneficial than £200 worth of marketing budget.
Definitely.
And it's that understanding that. As a person, you might be more beneficial to that company by asking for them.
There's also a group of people that I mentioned earlier, the people in the background that I work with, the people that just put hours on new tools just to see, do they break, where do they break, what needs improving along the way of development. So, by all means, if you're interested, if you're a trade background or just general tool users, just send us an email, and there must be something at one point that we can do for each other.
One of the things that I think is really, really valuable in the way that we work with our community, and the way in particular that we work with our ambassadors, and you can ask them, please do write to April, write to Matt, write to Fabian, Frank, Ben, whomever. Brothers Make, they would be upset if I forgot them. And the major thing that the major way that we kind of set up our relationships with them, which my understanding from conversations with them and others is at odds with what people tend to expect, is that our approach is that they are their own brand, and that they are their own brand is the most valuable thing to us. I don't want to slap, the Triton logo across the middle of one of Ben's videos, because Ben's viewers are Ben's own viewers. Ben knows his audience best. Ben has built his own appearance and brand and following based on the stuff that he's done. So us wading in and saying, talk to the camera about this thing is going to
have a negative effect.
Exactly, it's going to be inorganic to his community. And anybody who's had any sort of traction in the makers community in terms of having a following is going to have had experiences with companies who want very specific deliverables and stuff to be a certain way, but it doesn't sit well with their audience. The amount of negative feedback you get as a creator as a result of changing things up is astounding. So when we bring people on and we're actively growing a following with a new creator together, often it's almost like they've got an approach where they have to please us, and it's a one-way relationship. Whereas they're going, well, what do you want? And my response is, I want you to be yourself. I want you to carry on doing the things which put you on our radar in the first place. Yeah, I want you to continue loving what you do. Just maybe when you're cutting this, make sure that all you're using is orange, but don't shout about the fact that it's orange. You can if you want. If that's organic to your content, fantastic. But yeah, it's a for anybody listening who's looking for to perhaps get sponsorship or get tools or get anything, not necessarily with Triton, but with anyone, make sure that you have established your own identity and audience first, because that is what's going to be valuable. And that's what companies and people like myself, who recruits perhaps the wrong word, but let's use recruit ambassadors, will value the most when looking at people, more than numbers of followers. If you've got 10 followers and all 10 of them comment every single day and love what you do and like every single video, that's far more valuable than somebody who's got 1 million where only 5 people watch the video, or perhaps are subbed but don't have an active interest in what it is that you're making, or are the same 10. Jamie, you're right.
Yeah, well, I think that's a key point there as well, especially for we talked before about kind of the professional content creators who are producing entertainment rather than kind of encompassing educational content. I think that they're very easy to tell apart as well. If you've got a content creator who is pulling in big numbers and has all the subs and all the engagement and everything, but all of their followers are not makers, they're not going to be people who are going to be buying your tools anyway. So it's like you say, it's that kind of finding the right people that fit your brand as a company. Who there's no point in you finding big numbers if you're not going to get big sales from it. It's not that you're driving sales, but it's driving that kind of it's putting tools in front of eyes of people who might buy tools, rather than there's no point putting, like you say, the Triton logo on a handful of tools in someone's video for people who are just looking to for Pinterest fodder or things like that. It's because they're not future customers anyway. They're not people who are going to be looking to buy tools or looking to build projects. They're just looking for
it's putting if we look at this from Dan's perspective, from I suppose a product development perspective, it's about putting the Triton logo on things that we know will bring value.
To the specific maker, to their activity, and to their project, really.
Yeah, Yeah,
Spinless under, for
exactly.
example, you know, how useful is a spinless undershoe guitar builder? It's invaluable, right?
Yeah.
That it's just the perfect fit.
Yeah, and I suppose to that example, I mean, Dan's got one. I can spy one in the background. We've there. So let's take probably one of the most famous Triton tools ever, the TRA-1.
Router.
Yes, the TRA-1 router, 3.25 horsepower router. It's an absolute beast of a thing.
Monster,
It is a monster. It turns up in just about every My Perfect Workshop setup piece that you'll ever watch on YouTube, which is fantastic. We honestly, I can't watch them all because there are so many of them, because it was built in a way that answered needs and questions that the users had. It's got several different patented things in it, like the rack and pinion height adjustment on the side, or a built-in router lift, which removes the need for an aftermarket lift, which saves you the cost of the router again. All that sort of thing. I recommend you go and watch this video if you want to learn more about it. But where I'm going with this is that, with regard to putting the right name on the right tools, the TRA-1 hasn't changed in 20 years now. It was released in 2001, but it is being evolved very soon into the TRA-2, which is what Dan's got on the screen there. Now,
but it still has all the important safety features, right?
Yeah,
like the sliding switch cover, for example. If you're changing the bit, you can't switch it on. It's closed. It's locked.
Yeah. So my point is that the TRA-2 is an evolution, not a replacement of the TRA-1. The TRA-1 has done and will continue to do phenomenally well as a workshop favorite around the world. But we saw that in the last 20 years, of course, the way that people use routers has changed. We've got 20 years worth of feedback. We've got 20 years worth of reviews. There was an opportunity to make the TRA-1 better. So we did enter the TRA-2, which is available in Germany at the moment, very soon in the US, and very soon in the UK. And building the right product with the Triton logo on it is from Dan's perspective, I suppose, as important as finding the right people to use it, because they're kind of one and the same. It's not about give this product to the person that can show it to the most people. It's give this product that does the specific things that the specific users need it to do.
Yeah, it's target demographic, isn't it? It's target audience.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Something I was hoping to tackle that kind of feeds into the back of that is obviously with the kind of the umbrella of the parent company. You know, sort of Triton sits at the kind of the upper end of those other brands. You know, and it's fitting its specific market very well. But just like, you know, TTI as a brand, for instance, with, you know, having, you know, Milwaukee, AEG, and Ryobi as kind of three separate price points of essentially similar tools, you know, where there is kind of mutual development or mutual production going on. You know, I think that there's a common misconception that, you know, if a tool is made in a certain part of the world or has got a specific stamp on it or a specific brand name on it, that it must be X, Y, or Z. And I think people forget that most things are made in, you know, in China, for instance, even if it is, you know, got made in America stamp on it or something like that. It's, you know, the manufacturing is all done in factories geared specifically for doing that.
Exactly.
You know, so the kind of I suppose the question there, or the talking point there, is how you guys differentiate yourselves from the other brands in the umbrella. You know, because I know there's there's a commonality for tarring with the same brush, as it were. You know, is it black and orange Silverline, or is Milwaukee just a Ryobi with the wrong colors, or things like that. I think that's something that people often get mistaken, perhaps.
I mean, how is it differentiated? I mean, obviously the price point is different. Plus, Triton has a speciality as woodworking. But if you have a very entry-level brand, you need to have a wider offering. You just need to be cheap enough that people can afford it. You need to be good enough that people can finish the projects that they want to do to a satisfactory level in a safe way. The tool doesn't have to last forever. In Triton, we've got far more expectation as in durability and usability. It doesn't, you have a piece of wood, the cheap one needs to just make one piece of wood into two pieces of wood, fairly exact. The Triton precision power tools used to be our tagline, needs to make that at exactly 90 degrees, and the dust needs to be able to be absorbed by a dust extraction unit to 98% or 99%, depending on what it is. So differentiation is really, how long will it last? Who is going to use it, and what do people expect the outcome to be? As a manufacturing base, everything is made Far East, right? Central Europe, even Northern America before the Trump era, I would say, lost the ability to make most of these things, right? Facilities weren't there anymore to make these things, and you have people who make the iPhone in China, right? So you can get what you pay for, and it also depends. Triton, or what we put on our boxes, is engineered in Europe, made in whichever country it is. Then it's not only one Far Eastern country; it's globally, made from global source components. We do all the brain work here. We do all the user work here, and we then choose our partners in production facilities around the world to make it wherever it is most appropriate and has the most benefit for us and the user, really.
It's an interesting paint that people use with the same brush, where it's funny, and you see it mostly from American users, and I don't mean to kind of generalize and paint America with a brush, but it seems to be more of a concern where you get comments like, are Triton tools made in X country? And there's an interesting kind of blanket view, I suppose, that stuff made in a place, or even things made in the same factory that might have the same tool housing, are the same piece, and they're like, it couldn't be further from the truth. If a manufacturer in particular can save money anywhere in componentry, they will. It's not about where it's made. It's about the quality of what goes in, and the expertise of how it's put together, and working to the very, very fine, precise margins that we do in trying to put something together, so that it isn't built to split a piece of wood into two pieces of wood one time in its life.
They have to meet the customer expectation, whatever that customer is, whether it's somebody who's putting up their first ever shelf, or whether it's somebody who's working in the trades and is putting up premium quality built-in shelving units in London at £30,000 a pop, or and doing that for year on year, but also then maintaining a profit, a suitable profit for the business, so that it can carry on in business.
If we take a specific example down and talk about perhaps the TSPS 450, the cast iron top spindle sander, there are products out there that share the same housing in a different color. That's not to say they're the same tool. They're not. Dan and I very regularly have conversations and share user feedback, and going through kind of inspection reports and the rest of it to continually improve these things. The electronics are different. Motor housing shapes have been changed. Components have been swapped out for ones that last longer based on things that we learn. And in particular, sometimes in points of failure where perhaps dust's got somewhere where it's not supposed to. There's always changes happening in the background.
Yeah. And the production supervision, we have our own team in these countries, people that we employ that go and that are with the product start to finish during production. It's a luxury, right? Smaller companies can't afford that. They don't have that. They need to go at the mercy of the production facility to organize all of that. We have our people to go and check and make sure it's decent into specification. And, that's really how the only way to guarantee that level of quality.
Yeah, I suppose it's analogous to cars, isn't it? If you've got a Skoda or a Volkswagen or an Audi or a Bugatti, it's the same global entity over the top, isn't it? It's essentially the level of they're all raw materials from the same batch of stuff. It's
cars is a good example. I quite like my cars and. People like it's not unique to power tools, of course, that people have a where was it made and what group is it part of kind of approach to is it the same thing. So for example, let's say the new Toyota Supra Mark V. A lot of people who love that car, it's a fantastic car. A lot of people who love that car get flack saying, "Oh, really? It's a BMW, isn't it? It's not a real Supra." And you're like, "Well, no, it's not a BMW. It's a Toyota Supra. Like it's like the Ford Fiesta, I believe, and another one might be Ford Fiesta and another one share the same chassis, but they're very, very different cars. It's not. You're right. It's sometimes shared material, but not shared expertise and preparation that gives you the final product.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Fiesta and the B-Max essentially the same chassis, aren't they?
Yeah.
But one is essentially a small hatchback, and the other one's a slightly bigger hatchback.
Well, I mean, you looked 10 years ago, and it was what was it the Skoda Superb, the Audi A4, and a handful of others that were all the same platform, or like the Audi A3 and which was it, the Golf, the Scirocco, and a handful of others that were all the same platform. And it might be a shared similar component, or the same factory. But I know from speaking to yourselves years ago, like say sort of 2017, whenever it was at the Woodworking Power Tool show. Even back then, I remember a discussion with, I think it was with your predecessor, Mark, and he was telling me about that kind of thing of like, well, actually, no, that where our stuff's made, the production line kind of just over is another, color of tool, and it's components. Motors are made by motor manufacturers.
Yeah,
that just is a standard component.
Yeah, as companies have to choose. Yeah,
people always seem to be surprised when they find, and more so than perhaps they should be, when they find shared components or shared knowledge between companies. It would bring back to the cars example, the Mazda MX-5, little two-seat sports car, and the Fiat competitor. Fiat bought the chassis and the interior of the MX-5 to produce a direct competitor, and Mazda sold it to them, and people go, well, that's bizarre because surely Mazda are cannibalizing their sales, but it's just it doesn't work like that.
No, it doesn't.
They appeal to a slightly different market of customers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think we've touched on quite a few sort of good points now, and I think we're kind of reaching the kind of extent of our time because we've got time limits in place. Normally, towards the end of the show, we ask our guests what's been grabbing their attention lately, and that can be things like videos they've watched, or things they're doing, or things they've done, or things they're about to do. It can be books. It can be absolutely anything, and more than one thing if you like. So, is there anything particular that's been grabbing your attention?
Or anyone to shout out other than the brand ambassadors?
Yeah. While you're thinking about that, for me, we're recording this just a week after our episode with Tanda and Madison, and I'm still stuck in having kids with exams. So that's been my focus for a fair few weeks.
That's not allowed to use focus.
Oh yes, there was other ones. Yeah, I've got another week and a half of that, and then I'm free from exams.
I love how it's a universal experience that kids' exam week or end of project week is not just related to the kids. It's a huge family effort.
Yeah,
like we've got an ongoing joke in our family that we've got that collectively the six of us have got a B in art because we all chipped in to get my elder brother Joe's art project done on time. It was it was a whole thing. Yeah. But so let's talk about I guess stuff that's been grabbing our attention recently is I guess for me it's just there's been a huge explosion of not just people but platforms to share on. I'm always just in awe of the number of things people are making, and in particular the new ways people are finding to use tools and use materials. I'm very privileged that I get sent directly a lot of these new things because people think that it'd be interesting for us as a brand to know about and see, and we meet internally to kind of talk about the new stuff that's going on in the community and how people are using projects. Yeah, I something that is interesting to me in particular is that. So Maker Central, we started talking about Maker Central. It's I suppose it's sort of maybe full circle that we talk about them a little bit toward the end. They've recently released an app which is about projects. It's projects led and maker led rather than person and following led. You will follow a project from start to finish rather than you will a person. So if somebody's making a coffee table in an interesting way, you'll get kind of the all the postings and pictures and how-tos and tools used related to that project, and you can follow that person if you like and see what they make next. But it's very much about the shared maker experience of doing it, which is a unique way of looking at it. And I, for one, am very excited to see kind of how that progresses. So for anybody listening, I'd say do check it out, the Maker Central app.
Dan?
Other than woodworking for Triton, I'm actually on a bit of a vehicle project at the minute. We bought a old British Army truck a little while back, which we're converting into a camper.
Nice.
And that is taking a lot of time, but it's also good for me because I can practice some of my metalworking skills again. I haven't done welding for several years, and you can always stick two pieces of metal together. It will always hold, but it won't look decent, right? So it's really good to get my hands back into that, and I enjoy it a lot during the weekends and the evenings. Really, I don't enjoy fiddling with cars anymore. I'm not patient enough anymore. Everything is small, but truck, everything is big. You've got space to get your arms and your hands in between. It could be a vehicle that we can take around the world if we want. So eventually, it's quite rewarding.
Yeah, sounds fantastic.
I like fiddling with cars. I'm a big petrol head. So I'm going to Goodwood not one but two times this month. One for the Festival of Speed, another for a track day, and I'm always out messing with cars as well. So yeah.
Yeah, cars are another common thing I think for a lot of makers.
Yeah, sometimes just out of necessity. Yeah. I've always wanted to, as a teenager, I really wanted to kind of have a garage. I've only had one house with a garage, and you couldn't actually get a car into it. And I was kind of, as a teenager, I wanted to have a garage and get a car and do it up and modify it and the like.
I think I must be the only person. I'm certainly the only person that I know, but I must be the only person in the housing area that I live in that uses my garage for a car. My workshop is a garage. It's my parents' garage. My garage is full of I drive a Mazda RX-8. I suppose out of a need to make things difficult for myself, I own a rotary engine. Yeah, I think cars are a similar point of interest because it's the need to understand how things work.
My workshop is a 2.5 double garage in a bit, really, but the way it's angled, you can't actually fit a car into it from the driveway. So it was never supposed to be a car, a garage for a car. So, but well, suits me.
That's the excuse that you tell your missus.
Our last house was the one we had a garage, and it was the house was on a hill, and so the entrance, the garage floor was obviously flat, but the entrance to off the kind of, it was off the back lane, was at such an angle that you unless you had a quite a high sort of suspension vehicle, you would ground out in entering. We attempted it once. We kind of started to scrape metal, and it was like, yeah. We had a Ford Focus Estate at the time. It was just like, yeah, we'll be parking up front, won't we? Yeah.
What do you guys have going, and what's catching your attention though?
Jamie?
Masses of, it's mostly just bits of admin and things at the minute for me. I'm sort of prepping for little bits and bobs. So it's just really boring admin stuff and bits of finishing off, prepping for loft works and things like that. So nothing too exciting.
I'm looking ahead a little bit for me because I've got, let's say, the exams finish next week. We're a homeschooling family. My eldest is in school, but my youngest is homeschooled and will go to school in September. So end of next week. Well, I'm doing some exam marking starting next week. So once that's out of the way, I can start turning our conservatory into kind of more of a craft room rather than a homeschool room. So I've got plans to make a craft table that I can use for my book binding. So I'll have more space because I haven't got room in my workshop. But I'm kind of hoping that this will actually give me, in September, I'll just be a house husband at home, cooking dinner for when everyone else gets home, walk the dog in the morning, etc. So I shall have quite a few hours available to me. So I'm kind of hoping that I can get back into making videos again because I haven't made a video for a little while. I've got a couple in edit and have been for a while, but I'm kind of hoping that I can actually sort of start that again and get back into making for myself as much as anything and getting the wood going again, doing some more metal work. So I mean, I do all sorts of things, but I kind of want to do it all.
I think you and I, Dan, both have a couple of pieces. I wouldn't say necessarily as far as in edit, but things filmed to perhaps one day make videos because it's a dream, isn't it? You kind of want to
10 terabyte of that kind of material.
Yeah,
unfinished project list.
Yeah.
My youngest has a set of shelves in her room that is. It has a particular style to it. I'm not going to give it away, but it's got a particular style to it.
I think eager listeners can go back through the archives of the last 12 months of Maker's Waffle of the hints.
There's been a couple of hints,
that's
been up and full for ages. And I've got all the footage sitting on the computer, kind of waiting to be edited to kind of turn that into a video. It's like, so probably left home by the time I finish it, but. No, I'll get back into the videos, get back into making. I'm kind of getting excited about that. Got a few ideas for some electronics, got a few ideas for a few wood things, a few metal things, a few kind of prop things. Plenty of ideas.
You've got to capitalize on it, haven't you? When the inspiration strikes you.
Yeah.
I find. I mean, my workshop's only 10 minutes down the road, but sometimes that's enough to make me not want to go in an evening. And when I do go, even if I'm feeling like that. 5 minutes in, I forget what I was worried about.
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, I feel like mine's only downstairs.
I was going to say mine's 20 meters that way. Sometimes that's too far. Yeah, I think sometimes I think it's worth. Something we talked about on the show before. It's that sometimes you have those seasons in life where you've got to focus on particular things, whether that's just trying to improve one's health, whether that's physical or mental, or whether it's you've got family pressures. And for me at the moment, lots of family pressures. That's the priority, but hopefully that'll ease. And come the summer, I shall be able to kind of get back and actually remind people that I am a maker, not just a weekly podcast host.
That's priority number one, isn't it? You've always got to look after yourself and your loved ones.
Absolutely.
And build for them first. I've learned that. That's what I'm taking away is my order of who I'm building for. But it does mean that I need to pause several projects. And
if you can make everyone else's life easier, then that gives you an opportunity to make your own life a bit easier as well.
Yeah, the trick is to maybe do enough that they kind of go, that one's done. Then do something for yourself, and then kind of go back and do another one, and kind of just get a tide going of regular things going into the family, but you also get enough going to you're getting your own benefit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think I'm not there. I mean, obviously, people can find you kind of collectively through Triton. Do you have your own kind of Instagram, YouTube? People might be able to look for you as individuals, or
Dan, go ahead.
Yeah, I do post on Instagram as Tool DIY Geek. So that's just it's nothing regular really. It's just things that grabs my attention or things that I'm personally, doing really at the time. You find a lot of Triton there, but you find a lot of other brands as well there that are being used. So nothing to do with the company whatsoever. So if you want, look me up there.
Cool. I'll make sure that's listed in. I'm following you. I think pretty sure I do.
I just went to try and find you, and I'm already following you as well.
Yep, there's 3D printing, there's woodworking, there's metalworking, there's all sorts of them.
Triton's woodwork. So you can't expect
Just contact me there if you've got any questions. Whatever it's related to.
People will be able to reach me through at Triton_tools. I'm not one who's actively curating a presence on social media. It's one of those things where I think I used to, and now it's so much a part of my working life every single day that it's a bit of an escape not to have one. That's not to say that it's not going to stay that. That's not to say that it's going to stay that way necessarily. Like I mentioned a moment ago. I think Dan and I both film independently with the dream of publishing videos, but not there yet.
Well, if you do, let us know, and I'll when the show goes out and the show notes go on there. And if in sometime in the future I can also go back and edit in so people can find you in the show notes.
Cool.
Sounds terrific. You'll see me in the background of some of our ambassadors' videos as well.
Let's go back and look at some of those. Yeah.
I make some cameo appearances in places.
It's been absolutely great chatting to you, gents. Thank you for giving us your time. It's been getting a nice little insight into kind of how brands work, and it's been enlightening and interesting. So,
well, thank you for having us. I suppose perhaps it's maybe a little bit of a different conversation to what might normally transpire because we tend to look at it by nature from a different angle. That we all have this. We talked about it. We all have this shared need to create, and it's what's brought us together with the community and friend group and circles that we all have and gravitate in. So it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for having us on.
It's been a brilliant opportunity for us to realize that you are in fact human beings.
Yeah. And if you've got any complaints, it's Dan at
my fault.
On that note, I think we'll say goodbye to our listeners, and I have absolutely no idea who's going to be in the following week because
we don't know when this is
when this was going out. But
I'm
no
going to take
doubt
a
by the
step in
time
the dark. Happy Sunday, everyone.
Yes, yes. Right, bye, folks.
Cheers, folks.
Cheers. Thank you.
Cheers.